As we celebrate the Joy Sunday today, the candle that we lit, the pink candle, is the joy candle for our traditionally, I don't know why it's pink, but all the others are purple. But that one candle teaches us many things about our life in this world, how we can be filled with joy even in the midst of troubles and griefs and pains that we face around us. So the 4 Sundays, as I told you, the first Sunday of Advent, we celebrated the Sunday of Hope. Then last Sunday, we celebrated as peace. Today is joy, and the last Sunday will be love that we celebrate next Sunday. So the 4 qualities of Christian living in this world, important things that we experience in our lives. The joy of Christmas comes in many different ways. One of the common things that we have during the holiday season, especially Christmas season, is the joy of giving and receiving gifts. That is one joy that we share during Christmas season, unlike other times. But we usually give gifts for birthdays or special events like graduations to a particular person. But here, during Christmas season, we exchange gifts in many different ways. To people who we know, to people we don't know sometimes. We give gifts in many different ways, help people out. But gift giving is an important event or practice around the world during this season when we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. It brings us a certain amount of joy during this time. But it can also bring a lot of stress during this time. And one of the most stressful season, I don't know about you, but most of the people in the family in America, the most stressful season is the holiday season. That's what I hear. All things come together, like right after Thanksgiving, the holiday sale come and you have to run to the store and then get online to get the catchy sales that are going on there. Some of them are clicking clocks on the website. If you don't buy that in a certain time, your price, you will lose your price. So we get stressed out. Sometimes you go to bed and think that, I have to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock and catch that sale. Used to be like that on Black Friday. I don't know how many of you remember. People used to line up before Best Buy. I did that one time and that was the end of it. That was years ago. I don't know if people do that still because it's all online now. Everybody's online. But online also gives you a lot of stress. When I wanted to hop on and look for some gifts, I thought I should have better off not looking at it because I was flooded with so many things in my screen that I don't know where to go. I forgot what I was looking for. I don't know if it happens to you. That gives me a lot of stress. And then later on, I found out that I still have to go back and find the gift that I was looking for. So this is the kind of life that we are living on a daily basis. And sometimes you forget to buy a gift, and at the last minute you remember that you forgot somebody, right? I don't know if it happens to you. It happened to me one time, not on Christmas time, to give somebody a birthday gift, and I forgot, completely forgot. And I called my son and said, hey, I forgot this. We have to go and get a gift. And he said, yeah, well, let's go to the store. I know something great there. And we ran over there. Guess what happened? They don't have any power. So their cash register doesn't work. So we couldn't do anything. My son started laughing all the way home because we could not get anything. So that's another stress that comes to you. Forget these things. And UPS, FedEx, and even postal service, they are very, very busy during this time. You pack up all of these gifts and you send people that you cannot give directly to them, right? These are all things that we go through this time every year. And postal service is so very busy, and used to be only postal service for years. And lately we have so many delivery agencies that you can send gifts to it. But the funny thing is that we sent a gift this week. The whole gift to us less than the price of the shipping charge. Have you happened to that? The gift to us cheaper than the shipping charge. when you go to the ship. I said, we are not going to do this next time. They can come here and probably get this gift by themselves. I mean, I don't know if you remember, I read a story that the Postal Service used to deliver babies. Look it up. It's a very interesting story. The Postal Service is the oldest delivery service. It started in the 1700s. But until late in the 1900s, like 1920s or 30s, before UPS came, Postal Service was the main delivery service of packages also. So people started asking about sending children through Postal Service. And the first mailing of a baby was a 6-month-old baby in Ohio in 1913. And it's recorded in the postal history that a mailman picked up a 6-month-old baby from the parents' house and put a postal stamp on a piece of paper and stuck it to the baby's dress, and then took the baby and delivered to the grandparents about 6 miles away. That's the first event. They started picking up. And then several babies were shipped, and the longest one was 700 miles from Ohio to Kentucky. In 1915, a girl was taken by a mailman, put a sticker on her with a postal stamp and address on her, and some piece of candies and chips in her hands, seated on a train, and sent her to Kentucky from Ohio, 700 miles, about 6 or 8 hours of travel. And the parents came and took her came from the parents to the grandparents. I don't know if you're expecting any of that kind of gift nowadays, but you never know what you're going to get in your boxes either. Lately, I hear a lot of crazy things coming in your packages, like snakes and living stuff. So be very careful what you open. But remember, it is still a good time that we celebrate with all this stress that is happening during this time. We are celebrating the gift of joy. That's what the most important thing is. Sometimes we forget that gift among all the other gifts that we get. We are excited to open the box and see what's inside, but then we forget the giver. How many times you forget the giver? We forget the giver because that becomes secondary, right? You look at the box and say it came from Amazon. It doesn't say it came from somebody, unless they put a name card inside. Everything comes from Amazon, right? That's what my grandchildren say. Where did your gift come from? Amazon. That's all they know. It didn't come from the grandparents anymore, even if you send them. So among all these things, the joy of Christmas is not only the gift itself, it is about the giver that we need to be thankful for. That's the joy that we need to remember about Christmas. That's why we sing songs filled with joy. The greatest gift of exchange that happened is at Christmas. God says, I am giving you beauty for ashes, oil for joy, and joy for mourning. In Isaiah, we read that in verse 3, it says, I will provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead a spirit of despair. So God is exchanging gifts with people as we exchange gifts and rejoice and enjoy the joy in our hearts by giving gifts. God's gift to us, and the promise is to bestow upon them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, an oil of joy instead of mourning, and the garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. God exchanges beauty in place of ashes. In the olden days, people who were in grief and pain sat in ashes to show their grief. And people will come and comfort them when they sit in ashes. When everything is burned down, finally what you get, some debris and ashes. That's what ashes signify. Everything is lost and you are in grief. You are in despair. In the midst of that, God is promising that I am going to exchange your ashes for crown of beauty. And that's what happened during Christmas time, in the midst of this chaos and in the midst of these gloomy situations that the people of God were facing at that time. They were exiles in Babylon, and they didn't have any hope to look forward to. They were under the oppression of a foreign ruler. And that's when the prophet is giving them the promise of God, that saying, even though you are in despair, even though you are mourning, I am going to exchange you some gifts. The gifts of beauty that I'm going to crown you with in the midst of ashes. I was preaching about peace last Sunday. In the midst of our grief and pain, we can enjoy the peace that God gives us. He will deliver us in our pain, sometimes not from the pain. Pain is a part of our life. It is part of our life in this world. It's a reality. Grief is a reality that we all have to go through. There are only two kinds of people. One who have experienced grief. If you have not, you will experience before you die. One thing or the other. We all will have to face grief and pain as we live as human beings in this world. But in the midst of that pain, sometimes God will deliver us from the pain and grief. Sometimes He will deliver us in it, inside of it. That's the same thing with joy. Joy is something not that we experience from outside. If you look for joy from outside experiences and happenings, you will never find it, because things keep happening. It is not the circumstances. It is not the decorations. It is not the beautiful flashing lights. These are all good things, but these are not the things that bring you joy, is it? It's not. Because as soon as the season is over, they turn off the lights, take out the wreaths, take down the trees, and it's another stress. How do you dispose the trees? This is another painful. If you have real trees, it's very hard to get rid of it sometimes to burn. Sometimes the trash people take it, some of them don't take it. But Prophet Isaiah is saying that the people who knew exile and losses and despair in brokenness and disappointments, they have God's promise of exchange of gifts. And that is the promise that God gave through the prophet. So this time of grief and pain and suffering that we go through, God is there to say that I will exchange it. I will take your grief and I will give you comfort and peace. I will take your disappointment and I will give you joy. So cast all your cares on God. That's what the scripture says in 1 Peter. We don't have to carry our pains and our grief and our sufferings alone. God is there to take it for us. That is the season of Christmas that He sent as a package, as a bundle of joy in Jesus Christ, so that He's exchanging that gift with us. Hey, here is the gift of joy. Here's the gift of peace that I'm giving to you in exchange for your suffering, in exchange for your pain, in exchange for your mourning. I'm going to give you the joy that in a bundle of joy as a baby in this world. God does not deny the pains or ashes in our lives, but He knows that He can transform it. He can exchange it, and He can make our life different. And we trust in Him because He is a good God, and everyone who believes in Him, God does good for our lives. It is better than what we do for our lives ourselves. God, Emmanuel, is with us. Jesus Christ signifies the presence of God in us. To many people, the Christmas time is not a joyful time. And I've been hearing stories about people. Some of them are struggling with their health issues. Some of them are grieving at the death of their dear ones. The ones who have celebrated Christmas time last year on their dinner table are not with them this year. It is not joyful time for them. Many of the people are struggling in various different ways. And I was hearing stories about, things happening on a daily basis. One time, Miss Linda was calling us to say that her car doesn't start. The next Sunday, Miss Lou called me from the parking lot that her car doesn't stop. She can turn it off. For some reason, the power doesn't. So one problem with the other problem. And then I see the water heater breaking and flooding the floor, and then the outlets burning, right? things like that happening around us so much. If you look for joy in the midst of that, I don't think you can find it outside. It has to come from inside. That's the exchange that God gives us. If you have Jesus inside of your heart, there is a joy that nobody can take away from you, even in the hospital bed, right? You can experience the joy of God in our lives. Even though the outside is all tubes and things that you don't make scary with the equipment around you in the hospital room, and the people in white jackets and blue coats and things like that walking around you makes me scary. But in the midst of that, there is God. The joy of God that fills your heart. There is joy, joy, joy down in my heart. I used to sing that song when I was a little boy. That joy is inside. It comes from inside to the outside, but joy doesn't come from outside to the inside. Happiness is different. People have defined it differently. Happiness depends on the happenings outside. So it can change. You'll be happy in the movie theater and you come out of there, or you have a few glasses of beer, you'll be happy for a few hours, and then that will go away, right? The joy is different. The joy is that fills your hearts through Jesus Christ. When you accept God in your hearts, no matter what happens around you, you can experience the joy inside. And also joy that Jesus brings to this world is not to this world only. It is about an expectation of a beautiful time that we are waiting for, to experience that joy eternally with the presence of God as we go from this world. It doesn't end here. Our joy is eternal, and we are going to be with God eternally enjoying that joy and rejoicing together in His presence one day. So it is the joy of salvation that God gave us, made us the children of God, so that we can continue to experience that joy, not only in this world, but also in the world to come. So the gift of God's presence in our lives came wrapped in a baby's manger, as the little baby of Jesus brings us the good news of great joy to this world. Not only to the shepherds, not only to the people who are involved during that time, but also who are alive today. God's gift of joy is alive in our midst. May the good Lord help us to experience that joy in our lives, not only in our lives, but also to be a source of joy for others, wherever we go, to share that gift of joy to other people. May the good Lord bless us these words as we go from this place. Amen.